Gene Koon, welcome to Suit Up the Podcast.
Oh, thank you, Terrence. It's really great to be here.
I also have to give you huge kudos because you have suited up. You look fantastic, and you've got a pin on your lapel. Mind telling me about
Yeah.
that?
Okay, so a couple of years ago, I've become good friends with former Chief of Staff of the White House Air Force, General Merrill McPeak, and he was also a Thunderbird pilot, soloist, and he was very generous in inviting my wife and I to the 70th reunion of the Thunderbirds, and
Oh,
at Nellis. So it's a private air show put on by the Thunderbirds. And I was managed to get this pin, and it's where, yeah, here it is, and it's just like, yeah, I love it. So, and if I can just mention his book, Hanger Flying, it's a terrific read. It's got everything in there. He has a sense of humor. Well, he's got so many stories. He was uh, Vietnam, flew the Misty missions, over 200 missions, and he has the wit of Elmore Leonard. So his book is terrific. So I highly suggest reading that. So
I
that's why I got the
jotted
pin.
down
Yeah,
because that sounds exactly like something up my alley. I
yeah.
read, what was the book? Empires of the Sky by Alexander Rose 2 years
Oh,
ago.
yeah.
Amazing book. And ever since then, I've had more of an interest in aviation. I mean, people watching, I've got the poster behind me. I've got
I
Unwanted
saw it.
Passenger there on the corner.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I read Unwanted Passenger uh, on the plane recently, just a few days ago. It's perfect. It's everything that I love. I just love that book. It's just yeah, it was just fun to read. Like I wrote a review, and like I said in the review, it's a combination of Indiana Jones, uh, well, meets Elmore Leonard and meets all these other. It's just a great book. So yeah,
You
kudos.
mentioned Waldo Pepper in
Waldo
in the
Pepper. That's
review,
yeah.
and I didn't know that film existed until like this year. Now it's on my watch list because
Oh yeah.
it's a William Goldman script, and
Well,
he is the writer.
yeah, and when you watch that show, that movie, he that was before CGI. And when you see wing walkers, and I can't remember the actress's name, Susan Sarandon, um, you take notice. And then and Robert Redford's in it, and it's a terrific movie. We rewatched it about a year ago as well, my wife and I. So yeah, put it on your list.
Hey, now it's definitely on the list. But also, we are here to talk about your debut thriller, Another Try.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, Gene. I had so much fun with this
Oh,
book.
thank you. Yeah. Yeah, what I wanted to do, Terrence, is uh, just write an entertaining book. I didn't
Hmm.
want to, and it's been said it's fast paced uh,
Hmm.
and high stakes, and I just wanted to write a book that made you feel like you were going to a movie.
Hmm.
Yeah, it just I don't want to bog down with a lot of details. I just want you to turn the page, and just keep going. So entertainment was, I kind of told people, I've told people that this is the kind of book where you pick up at the airport, you read it on the plane, you leave it on the plane, or bring it to the beach. But it's just good for, like, I want you to feel like you're in a movie, for in a couple hours. You're in, you're out, have a good time. Don't overthink it, but just go.
Well, one of the things I think you did a phenomenal job with in this book is I don't think you give yourself enough credit for the sense of place that you give. So much of the book happens in Oregon wine country.
Yes,
And
yes.
literally, I was like primed to notice this. I analyzed this Mr. Bond as a YouTube channel where he like talks about some of the more detailed nuances of the Fleming books. And he made an observation that part of what makes Fleming's work stand out is the travel log element, where
Yes.
you just have this sense of where everything is happening and this beautiful level of description to the countryside and the people and that cultural element of where Bond is. And you did that so beautifully when
Thank you.
Garris Kelley is in Oregon wine country.
Oh, thank you. When I was writing that, it's I don't know how you feel about it, but if you have strong areas and weak areas, and it's like description for me is like was really like okay, yeah, this is hard to nail down to get exactly what's in your head to on in the book. But I'm glad you think it worked out because it did kind of take on a character of itself, and we're fortunate to live in Oregon wine country and sample the really nice wines we have here. So,
I've
so
been
it's a pleasure.
to I've been to the Napa area for work a couple of times and to Portland. I've never been to Oregon wine country specifically, but just being in that general hemisphere and zone, it just has this unique cultural element in and of its own. I even love that you describe like the diner that he goes to eat at and how, oh, if you want the best coffee, you go to this place. But if you want to be where everyone else goes, you go to this
Right,
place.
right, right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, we have some choices here. So yeah, and coffee and wine are two of the choices. So and I'm in Paso Robles today in wine country. So I don't know. I guess the cover with the wine glass on the cover is suiting for my sensibilities.
It really is a cover has to have that right kind of grab you, and
Yes.
far too easily it becomes something generically bland. Like we've all seen those book covers where it's like the guy in silhouette with like cityscape behind him.
Right.
And that's what a
Well,
lot of thrillers are. Sometimes it really works well, most of the time it doesn't. With the wine glass here and the bullets and the target, it just really sets the mood well for what people are about to read.
well, because you've read the book, I think you know that that cover isn't just a cover, but there's actually a scene. If you look in the wine glass, you see a villa, and I don't want to ruin it for anybody else, but so it does actually fit the book quite well.
For those who haven't looked at the back flap yet, what give us just a general premise. What is another try?
Well, another try, boy, that's really going to be tough because, as you know, one thing leads to another, leads to another, leads to another. So, but the general hook is uh, a United States senator and his son are taking the transit train from the airport to a campaign rally in Pioneer Courthouse Square. And along the way, there's a mass shooting.
Hmm.
Um, Coinciding with that moment, uh, the main character of the book, Garris Kelley, is a CIA agent who recently liquidated a cartel uh, head, and while he was going to have a meeting with the U.S. senator at that particular time, um, and maybe talk about the fact that the he is now outed, as a CIA agent by the president, and he thinks the senator might have let it slip to the president that that's who he is, because the president now, Garris Kelley, is an operative, but everybody knows he's an operative. So, or was, he's not saying if he still is, and that's kind of what this character is about: is he or isn't he still an operative? He is now a celebrity, so he can almost do anything he wants because uh, well, is he or isn't he? Can he do this or can he do that? He's not going to tell you. And he kind of has fun with that, but he's also embracing or is learning to embrace his celebrity. He doesn't know, uh, people are coming up for his autograph. And it's like, oh, okay, for the last thing a CIA agent spy wants to do is sign autographs. But this is his world now.
It's such a wonderful notion for like the modern era where we have social media. Like the amount of opportunity for secrets to become public is just increased to such an exponential state.
Yes.
And let's face it, we live in a world where politics and politicians have very little compunction against committing such faux pas. So
Exactly.
I think it also does have this the contrast between this is what's happening politically and you have the different politicians kind of using this tragic situation to posture
Absolutely.
because
Right.
what happens.
Yes. It's what anything goes in this day and age. And you'd never know who is going to do what on social media, post whatever. And if a president wants to get online and on Twitter or X now, and just happens to mention that this guy's a
Look how
smart.
cool America is. Look at what we did. And
Yeah,
then it's
yeah,
like,
exactly.
oh
Yeah. So,
no.
boy, yeah, I'm so tempted to go into the book, but I don't want to spoil it for people. But
What I will leap in and say is you also have a secondary storyline where I just want to call out it's Jimmy, if I remember right,
oh yeah,
the driver. There's this
yeah,
whole like subplot that is super Elmore Leonard, where you have this poor driver that just wants to be left alone, and he's having to carry around all these cartel dudes who are now chasing Garris Kelley.
uh, when I was working on the book, it's like, okay, I'm having him do this, and then it got to the point because as a writer, they start talking to you, the characters and the dialogue.
Yes.
And it's like, oh no, did I do this to Jimmy again? Like, oh no. It's like, and then it's like, okay, sorry, Jimmy. So, but yeah, he's a lot of fun.
I think that that's something that fleshes out the world of a story really well, though, is that it's it's Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. It's those secondary characters who have to deal with the consequences of the main characters doing
Oh,
their thing, and they have to deal with the collateral damage because they're the supporting minor characters who just happen to be in the way.
right, right. And well, Jimmy was just a guy who, um, you know, he was in the wrong place at the wrong time and picked the wrong job. He thought it might have been an easy job, but you know, you got to watch what opportunities you take and dismiss. And Jimmy, well, we'll leave it at that with Jimmy. But uh,
One other thing with the sense of setting in place, I think you did a great job of much like with how Fleming has the villains kind of do the whole. I heard it in terms of I read a great book called A Bond Odyssey, and the author is a classicist, and he's basically going through and going, what are the classic like Greek myth elements that show up in James Bond? One of them was the concept of xenia, which is that element of hospitality. And like almost always, the villain is offering hospitality to Bond in some way, shape, or form.
yes.
And you use the Oregon wine country setting to take that sense of what hospitality is, and it worked very well. I want to champion that this book has multiple layers that are very well thought out and people need to read to enjoy.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I really appreciate that. It's once again, I did want to spotlight on Oregon wine country, and also it hopefully it might bring more people to the area as well, because we do have some very nice Pinots.
Okay, so that leads me to a question. I kind of prepared you before we hit record on this. What is the best wine that you recommend to pair with reading Another Try?
Wow. Well, I really enjoy the Pinots here, like mentioned. That being said, uh, you know, uh, uh, if you want to go down the Chateauneuf de Pape road, I highly suggest that. But I actually, the ending, which we won't get into, I was coming up with trying to come up with an ending of where are we going to go with this, and
Hmm.
I actually took a tour of a winery, and uh, they basically kind of gave me a suggestion of how we're going to deal with the ending. So, and the ending, and so
Again, people read the book because it's really good. Like again, really enjoyable story, and it lands the ending with a thriller. Coming up with the ending to end well is tricky because especially obviously I have hopes that Garris Kelley has multiple entries. I think that he's the type of hero that has a lot of source for adventure, but you did a great job on landing an ending where it feels episodic in a way that if this is the only one, I will thoroughly enjoy it, but it leaves the door open for future stories in a way that doesn't feel, oh, but you have to get this next book so that we can resolve things.
Well, Garris is coming back.
Yes.
I'm working on it right now, and a couple of other characters who I'm not going to say, but if people are seeing this and have read Another Try, please let me know at the website genekoon.com what some of your favorite characters are, and if they've survived this book. There could be a high body count in this book. I'm not going to say, but if they survive this book, let me know who some of your favorites are, and maybe they'll come back. But a few of them will come back in the next one.
I think there's sometimes where like you go to a city and these are the locations from various stories. Do you have like a map of Oregon? These are the locations in the
Well, I
book.
um, the the way I kind of laid it out is the book starts in downtown, and uh, my wife and I, we took a trip to Eastern Oregon because that's in the book as well, and that's a big piece of the book. And we visited a small town, um, and it had all the right pieces of, okay, there could be a story here. You know how like Jack Reacher goes to a
Hmm.
and but so this had those sort of elements. So I kind of based Traverse City in the
Hmm.
book uh, on this particular town that's in Eastern Oregon, and then of course the other piece is just south of Portland, which is the wine country, and I think where the llamas are out and the wrecked cars and as you're driving through and just so that's part of it. So those three places are really kind of was the place I wanted to focus on.
Hmm. Again, it moves the story enough where you have a changing of location, but it's never so drastic that you lose the thread of the story.
Right, right. Yes. Yeah, I did want to keep it in one particular place and not go
Hmm.
somewhere else. But you never well, but I did have a piece that took place in the Hague.
Hmm.
So we mentioned that just a little bit because I spent some time in the Hague as well.
Okay, so I have to ask. I think that The Hague is one of those things that like I know about from like reading old books. It shows up in the conversation occasionally in the modern era, but for those that don't know, what is The Hague and how did you show up there?
Well, the Hague is they say it's the international city of justice, and that's where the tribunals are located. Um, the first tribunal it was the ICTY, the International Criminal Court for the former Yugoslavia, and since then that's where the ICC is now, the International Criminal Court. And excuse me, I'm going to take a sip here.
Nice looking mug there.
Shameless promotion here, but it actually needed at the same time.
That's
But
the subtitle of the entire podcast is Suit Up, Shameless
yeah,
Self-Promotion.
yeah. So here, okay. So the Hague is where the criminal courts are located, and a few years back, my background was in television, where I did all sorts of things from camera work to directing, and I ended up working for the International ICTY. And I worked with Milosevic and directing the daily trials, live broadcasts of the trials. So so that's basically the
Mhm.
Hague, and for those traveling, the Hague is a terrific place. It's just very enchanting, and it's right on the North Sea. And
Ooh.
a lot of people go to Amsterdam, but just give the Hague a shot. It's only 45 minutes or so south of that, so very worthwhile.
It's one of those things that when I've read about it, always just seems to have this rich cultural history where you feel like you're walking the streets of time, which, I mean, as an American, anytime you go to Europe, that's basically the way it works. But
Yeah.
still, it's fascinating because it is this unique multicultural center of something that has the idea of justice and that
Well,
has
it's
been there for so long.
right. Well, it's so laid back. Like, our flat was like 5 minute bike ride. Everybody rides bikes there, and you walk into town, and people, it's a walking city, but you just ride your bike around people. They're used to it. There's no bike lanes downtown. You just if you don't hit anybody, you're fine. They don't even think you're going to hit anybody. It's just, and it's such uh, it's just such a friendly town. And
Mhm.
I mentioned this in the book where I think I mentioned it, like the king could walk down the streets, but there was a few times where I would walk in and I would bump into the prime minister, Mark Rutte, and we would have a chat. And because he was going to go to his coffee, meet his coffee friends, I'd meet mine. And it's just, he didn't have any security. He's just out having his weekend, and that's the kind of town the Hague is. So,
Okay, this does prompt an interesting, weird tangential question here. Is there much difference in the coffee culture in The Hague versus the coffee culture in Oregon?
well, since I'm back in Oregon, I'll have maybe one coffee a day. In the Hague, especially in the court system, we socialize, so we have many coffees, black, throughout the day, just to sit down and have coffee with people. And um, I was fortunate to hook up with some of the senior prosecutors and lawyers, defense and judges there while I was there. And every Sunday we would have a group that we would call the Coffee Club, and it was a set group of maybe 4 or 5 guys. One of the prosecutors did the Exxon Valdez case. One did the Rodney King. One did, and here I am. I'm just a TV guy, but I get to soak in all this history of them telling me really what happened during that time. And I'm like, and people would drop in each week. That we had the editor of Top Gun movie. We had the executive producer of Game of Thrones, uh, uh, come in, and it's just like his Frank Dolger. And every week I just sit there going, okay, I'm not going to say anything. I'll ask a few questions, but it's like, let these guys talk about the trials and what they've done. And it's just, so that might show up in the next Garris Kelley book as well. Just
That's just such a wonderful opportunity as a writer to get to meet all those like rich characters that have all these stories. And
yes.
you'd mentioned in a previous interview that your work in directing and television helped most with the editing process for Another Try. Do you mind telling me a little bit about that?
Well, when so uh, I directed, live broadcast, and the I believe it went out to 30 different countries every day.
Wow.
And and you learn, you when I was directing the courts, I was kind of directing from the point of view of, yes, there's a lot of
Hmm.
legalese into these in the courtroom, but for the victims' families, uh, who don't know, what a 98 tour is. Excuse me again.
Yep, no worries.
Should I lower this low? um, but I wanted to direct, so they could understand it, and by doing that, I wanted to show reaction shots,
Mhm.
like, if the accused is feeling this way or that way, or if he doesn't agree, or if he's shaking his head. It's just, I wanted to present them a story so they could understand it, not just what the lawyers understood.
Hmm.
And also, they had monitors in the courtroom, and also because they do have transcripts in the courtroom, but I wanted to show the judges what the accused is thinking as well, just by a visual, and
Hmm.
by cutting the cameras in a certain way. uh, that's editing on the spot, and
Yeah.
you need to leave it and move on. And that's where the editing, I think, and the TV background helped me with, okay, we've said this, move on to the next thing,
Hmm.
because the whole thing, I want you to turn the page.
Hmm. You do a
That's,
great job with flow in Another Try.
thank you. Yeah, it's like I said, I wanted to. I'm a big fan of the movies of the '80s and '90s. I would go, to the movies every weekend with my son, and every week at that particular time, uh, Schwarzenegger would have a movie. The next week would be Mel Gibson. It would be, what I'm saying. And it's like these were fun, and I want to write a book, kind of in that tradition of go,
Hmm.
just go. Let's just, strap in for a couple hours and go.
There's a line that you said wrote in Another Try that I really liked enough that I wanted to call it out in the episode. There were just enough questions floating in the ether for Garris to pull his Beretta, but not enough they needed to aim it.
Yes.
Oh, chef's kiss. So good. And you do a good job of having nice, subtle humor where it's got this element where it's not first person, but we're getting Garris's thoughts and kind of his assessment of a situation. And he's the kind of guy you like to be with. He's got a humorous, sociable outlook, but also, yeah, he knows that he can beat them and he knows he can outsmart them, and he has no problem with that.
He's very capable. He's very confident, and yeah, and modest, I'd say, to a degree.
Yes. Yeah. Well, he never has a false sense of bravado. There's that natural confidence of when I always like compare it to Sherlock Holmes.
Mm.
Sherlock Holmes is always like, it's not arrogance if it's accurate. And
Right.
he has the quiet confidence of, oh, I know that I can do this. It's
Yeah.
not that I'm bragging. It's just, yeah, it's fact.
Well, also, I'm a big fan of Lee Child,
Hmm.
uh, and I'm a big fan of Elmore Leonard. And you don't, you put those guys together, and like Elmore Leonard, I saw him before he died. I went to a book reading, and he just said that and he's put it in print. Uh, don't overwhelm the people with details. You
Hmm.
know, you know, they've never been inside a prison, but I'll write about a prison, and hopefully they'll get it, move on. And
Hmm.
so, and his sense of humor, nobody, his dialogue and his characters are just, well, Elmore Leonard.
Hmm. It, that is, he is one of the writers that I came across within the last 5 years that all of a sudden I started reading his work and I was like, how have I missed this beforehand? This is amazing. It's just, again, good dialogue, good story, and it moves at a good clip, which is something you have done really well with in Another Try, where we're not hanging up on unnecessary detail. You're fleshing out the world and you're telling a good story and you're keeping it moving, which is the essential part of a thriller. And the audience knows this is one of my pet peeves. It's just the right size. It is
Yeah.
not overstaying its welcome,
Yes.
where there are some books and I see it and it's like, we crossed 300 pages. I need to have a good hook to keep going because that when we start getting it that thick, just no, thank you. I want a good story that I can just sit down, I can enjoy, I can read, I can spend a week reading it at leisurely, but I don't go, dear goodness, Ken Follett, I'm never going to finish this book.
Right. Yeah. And for me, I love the books, Jeffrey Deaver with the twists. Uh,
Hmm.
and there's a few twists in this book, I would say. And I'm the kind of reader who I just want to get to the end. I want to know. I'll stay up. I'll read the first 20 pages of the book, and then that takes me a little while. But now I want to get to the end. I just want to get to the end. And so I think that makes me want to, like, let's not put down too much detail
Hmm.
because I want to get to the end, and I wanted to get to the end of this book. And
Hmm.
I knew there was a couple of scenes. Well, there was a couple of scenes I knew the ending line of the book in the very first 15 minutes that I came up with the concept of the book.
That's awesome.
I couldn't wait to get there. So, and you know what that line is. So,
Yes.
yeah. So, so that was motivation for me to let's go and let's keep it short. We don't need 350 pages to tell this story. In the future, they might be a little longer, but a lot of Elmore Leonard books as well are just about this size as well.
Hmm.
So let's have fun.
Yeah. Tell a good story. What a remarkable concept. Why is this so hard sometimes? Just get to the good story. Which, on that note, one thing that I highlighted in reading Another Tribe, because I've had this recent interest in aviation, is that Garris flies his own plane. He's got multiple hangars with the kind of Spartan living conditions. I was like, I am getting Top Gun Maverick vibes, and I love it. Uh, you have an interest in aviation. Tell me about it.
Well, I grew up in an aviation family where my dad built an airplane in our garage,
Wow.
and for those and are familiar with home builds, there's an organization called the EAA, the Experimental Aircraft Association, and back in the day. There was a lot more air shows going on, fly-ins, and I grew up. You would go to the air shows and see a P-38 and P-40, the Mustangs, along with the Thunderbirds and the Blue Angels. And my mom actually was the very first. Back in the day, you could do this back then. They had pageants, and there was she was voted the very first Mrs. EAA. So and I do use that from time to time when I'm with some flying friends, and well, yeah, sure, you have a Stinson or you have a Waco, but my mom Mrs. EAA. So so I'm not afraid to pull out that card. So
That
but
is
yeah,
really
so
cool.
I grew up and my brother built a plane, an RV-8, and but yeah, aviation has just I got to grow up with some great aerobatic pilots. Art Scholl, look him up if you're not familiar with him, but he actually did all the photography or cinematography and airplane footage in the original Top Gun.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and he actually the movie is dedicated to him because he didn't quite make it through the rest of the movie. He actually,
Yes.
yeah. So Art Scholl, he was a friend of the family's, and he he was flying over the ocean doing the film, and he said he's got a problem, and a very big problem, and that was it. So so I got to meet some and be around the aviation industry. So it's in my blood. uh, and yeah, I grew up with a airplane wing in my bedroom, and my brothers grew up with the other wing in the bedroom, and it was not uncommon to go out and see my mom with the welding torch helping my dad. So and
Hashtag couple goals.
well, when we took the family drive, it was usually to go find a part for an airplane. My dad had it's not, hey, let's go, kids. We're gonna go take a drive. Well, it was usually to pick up a carburetor or a cowling or so.
Well, and you write about it very well in Another Tribe, where it's clear that this isn't just a trope or it isn't a thing that you're using to puff up Garrus to be more badass. It's
Right.
something that you genuinely enjoy and it comes through in the writing. And I love the general character that he meets and the kind of contrasts that start to get shown between him and Garrus, where
Yes.
Garrus is like, "Oh, this could be my future."
it could be his future, right? And there's going to be well, I shouldn't. The general may be coming back, and
Yes.
there may be more general than you're going to want to. But he's just, uh, I know a general, and he is probably. I was able to meet in my television career a lot of people, a lot of that you're familiar with. There's nobody like General McPeak, and he uh, he says the right thing in the shortest amount of words. You get the point, and no one is braver and more. He's a warrior.
That's
That's
an
He's a warrior.
incredible like description of what makes a character or person who they are at times is that say the right thing in the least amount of words because that's what makes crisp writing and crisp dialogue with characters.
Yeah. No, he'll text me with maybe two words, and I'm going, oh, and I'm cracking up for hours. So yeah. So I'm very fortunate to have role models for some of these books. So
What was the writing process like for Another Try?
well, because it's my first book,
Hmm.
at this level, it took me a while to. I was thinking, I want to write a book. What kind of character is out there that's different?
Hmm.
Because there's a lot of detectives. There's a lot of these kind of guys. But then when I came up with, oh, hey, here's a CIA who's exposed, and now he's a celebrity. It took about 15 minutes before just once I figured out who that character was, I knew not the entire book, but I knew what I wanted to do with it in 15 minutes.
Hmm.
And then I would go at it and start writing the book. And then, as you know, it's really once you have the beginning and the ending, well, it's that middle part that's kind of oh, okay, what are we going to do? But this one, fortunately, sort of wrote itself. I knew what was going to happen
Hmm.
each day. It was like, oh, this is what he does, and this is what he does. So the book sort of wrote itself
Hmm.
uh, at some point. Not to say that it wasn't difficult
Yeah.
to figure out, because there are multiple. Uh, I don't know if you picked up. I know you picked up on this, but what I had fun with in the book was I would put something on page, let's say 6, and
Hmm.
it could be an incident or a character, but it's gonna have an impact on page 160 or 200. And I do that several times throughout the book. There's a lot of herrings and red herrings, and you're going to have to figure out what's he doing here. But
Hmm.
I highly recommend if you're going to read the book, read it at one time so
Hmm.
you'll have more fun with it at that doing that. So as you know, there's some characters and oh, so this is why this happened, but it won't maybe come out until the last 3 or 4 pages.
Hmm. It's a great way of preparing the audience and priming them for what's about to happen because it does have this mystery element where Garrus is trying to figure out what's going on. It reminds me a lot of people kind of forget when they watch the original James Bond film, Doctor No is Bond solving a crime. He's putting together puzzle pieces to figure out what's happening and what's going on. And my apologies to anyone listening if they hear the sound of the lawn care crew outside my window.
Oh,
Apologies in advance. But I love that you do a great job of giving Garrus just enough information to figure out what's going on and take him to the next step because it does have that good detective vibe without him being a detective.
yeah,
Also, to your credit, CIA characters, there are lots of CIA agents in books, but
yeah.
you made a unique one. And you
Oh,
made one that doesn't feel like just a carbon copy, or like I was talking with Martin Rooney, he came out with the book Blood Feud recently, like a big, brawny, badass Reacher type character that doesn't feel like another Reacher copy, which is
right.
what often happens in thrillers. You did a good job creating a unique character and to your comment about the story writing itself, once you know the character, that's when the story really gains momentum. There are so many times when I'm writing, like, Unwanted Passenger as an example, I knew kind of what the vibe I wanted was, but it wasn't until I figured out who Mitch Mayhew was
Right.
that the story actually gained momentum.
Yes. And Mitch, yeah, I pictured him. You did a great job of just, yeah, I've got him in my head. And then, of course, you go into like, oh, who would this be in the movie sort of thing. So, and that I got those vibes from you. So it's like, can't wait for the next one.
Thank you. Who do you think Garris would be played by in the movies?
Well,
Sometimes authors have a person in mind as they're writing. William Goldman said that he always wrote like his first draft with thinking the male was Humphrey Bogart and the female was Audrey Hepburn. That was just his go-to.
yeah, well, when I was writing it, I saw another person in a non-actor in my head, and then, like I said, he just sort of took off on himself. But as far as actors, there isn't really one I can recommend. Well, because he's not a big bulky reacher guy. But
Yeah.
he's fit though.
Hmm.
He needs to be fit. He's been trained to be fit to take care of himself in situations. And uh, Garris does have hair, but maybe in the back of my mind, like a Jason Statham sort of kind
Yes.
of, kind of not, but just sort of, I can
Hmm.
take care of myself.
Hmm.
So, a younger Jason's, well, yeah, I mean, he doesn't age, but,
Yeah. Yeah, we're always talking about how Tom Cruise never ages. Dear goodness, Jason Statham, like, this is the benefit. My dad's bald. And I say that to, like, when you just go clean shaven on your head, there's, as long as you, like, keep the beard kind of trimmed and you don't
right,
go gray really quickly there, you kind of look timeless at a certain age. Which,
right, yeah.
with your beautiful white hair, I will say you also can achieve that certain agelessness at a certain point. So, like, kudos to you. You got good Clooney vibes.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's I got another birthday coming up in a couple of months, but I won't go there. But yeah, but I appreciate it. So, like I said, my mom, good genes. Let's put it that way. So,
Marvelous thing, genetics and healthy living.
yeah.
Uh,
Well, it could be the wine too. I won't say.
hey, do not doubt the power of aqua vitae.
There you go.
Do you have a writing routine? And if so, what does it look like?
Well, I do my best writing. I'll get up in the morning and I'll have my cup of coffee, which is extremely important.
Hmm.
Uh,
Okay, wait,
then,
wait. This is important because you are a bit of a coffee guy from what I've read and we've talked about. Do you have a go-to preference on what kind of coffee?
what my wife and I, we try different kinds all the time. But
Hmm.
in the morning, I always have my coffee black now, because that's in the Hague. Like I said, it's just like, let's go get a coffee. Well, okay, well, we're not going to do the special drinks. We're just going to load up on a little, and you drink that. So I got used to drinking black coffee, and so I'll start that every morning, and then go to the gym for a little while. But I do my best writing in the early afternoon or afternoon.
Hmm.
You're more refreshed, and however, throughout the day, like if you're riding your bike, and I ride my bike everywhere. Uh, Ideas come to mind, and I'll stop and I'll make a note on my phone, and then rework it. And then, of course, I don't know about you, but when you're like going to bed at night,
Hmm.
you redo the book like a movie in your head, and then you just replay it and replay it, replay it. So, but I will say the downside, not the downside, but the most difficult part for me is you have to, when you're writing a book like this, and any book, you reread.
Hmm.
Okay, let's start with chapter one again. And it's like I'm oh boy, I really know, I'm not a big fan of chapter one because I've read it, that especially that first paragraph, like, okay, let's go. I want to get to the new stuff, but so
Yeah, my attempt to hack that has been my beginnings always really suck, but by the time I get to that third chapter, I'm kind of firing.
right.
And what I'll do is I intentionally just accept, okay, I just need to get this first part started to start the story. And then I at the end tail back to, okay, now that I know the full rest of the story, let's rework the start. And
You're right.
that's like that way I can try to keep it less painful for me, but also it lets me do something a little different.
Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah, you better like your first chapter because that's the chapter you're going to read the most.
I read a meme that was like, you want to write the book you want to read because you're gonna read it 11, 27 different times.
Right. That's right. So, but I really enjoy the writing process.
Hmm.
It, it's, um, it's just fun to find the right word to describe, this particular feeling and to make it short, like I said, so you
Hmm.
can move on. But in order to do that, you've got to do it right. So you want to convey to the readers what you're trying to say in a short amount of words as possible.
Hmm.
So, the reviews that I've seen is they do say this is a fast paced book. So,
It's again, I want to highlight to the audience, this is a really enjoyable book to read. When I read what you've written, it's clear that you enjoyed writing it and you enjoyed finding a good sentence. Like the one that I shared, you have multiple moments like that where this is just a good sentence that conveys the right amount of atmosphere, character, and sometimes just that wry humor that helps take the not Marvel jokey, but just adds levity to a difficult situation.
yeah, yeah, uh, I was very fortunate as well to get Richard Poe to narrate the book,
Oh,
and he took the book to a different level. And for those who don't know who Richard Poe is, he won. There's an award for narrators. He won the that award for East of Eden, but he did a lot of Cormac McCarthy. He did
hmm.
Elmo. He just is a my favorite narrator. He just took it to it's just like holy cow. He is he's narrating exactly my feelings during that particular part of the book or the whole book, but to a different level. It's like yes, so it's a lot of fun. So
At, when you got the audiobook the first time,
yes.
what was the experience like just hitting play? Did you listen to the whole thing through? Did you go to specific sections?
No, yeah, I listened to it all the way through, and I think my wife and I listened to it. Well, we had to open a bottle of wine, didn't we?
Yes, yes, of course.
And maybe more than one, and that's how we got through the book and had a lot of fun with it. But no, he just it was a lot of fun having him do this.
Hmm.
And thank you, Richard, and maybe you'll do the next one. uh,
That's
so
definitely something I want to shout out is that the audiobook is amazing. I've listened to it. Thank you for saying it to me because I like good audiobooks. And when a good story has just that right voice, now I'm never going to open the book and read the words without hearing his
right.
narration to it.
Well, my wife loves to do the audiobook while she gets reads
Hmm.
the book as well, and I tried that, and yes, it's a lot of fun. So, and right now, as far as audiobooks, I've been getting into the Slow Horses series.
Oh,
Uh, I don't know if you've tried him, but boy, there's no writer like him. He I don't know how he does it. I just really don't. But I'm going through the whole series and having a lot of fun with that.
I'll
So,
have to look it up because I've been seeing it pop up in various authors that I follow. Like, oh, I've started reading these and they're amazing. I'm like, oh, I need to give this book a read.
well, his humor is there's nobody quite like it. And then if you watch the Apple TV series, they do a really good job of capturing it. But the audiobook is just yeah, right in there. So Nick Heron.
Gene, this has been a delightful conversation. Where can people go to learn more about you, your work, and order another try?
Well, the book can be found At the usual places. It's on Amazon. It's well, Barnes and Noble, Apple. You can get it through there. I'm also, I'm trying to let people know, if they go to the libraries as well.
Hmm.
Uh, if it's not there, ask for, have them pick it up because for me, it was fun to write, and it would just be. I get a great amount of pleasure of knowing that people are reading it, and
Hmm.
it's thank you for reading it. But because to me it's fun, so I just want to share how much fun. So any way you can, try to pick it up. But you can also, I do have a website, genekoon.com, and I'm also on the Instagram and the social media, the Facebook, and so and I try to post every now and then, of
Hmm.
what's happening, and thank you for your support.
Oh,
You've
absolutely.
been, you've been a great support in this book, so I can't thank you enough.
I love to champion good books and books that I really enjoy because I think of it a lot like one of those memories I'll never lose is seeing The Nice Guys, the Shane Black movie.
Right.
I got the Blu-ray. I didn't see it in theaters. I wasn't old enough, but I got the Blu-ray. I watched them like this is an amazing movie. I hope they make so many more. And then I found out that it didn't get enough
Right.
sales
Yeah.
to warrant a sequel. And because of that, I've always been the attitude that if I really like something, I'm going to shout from the rooftops because I want to see more of that in the
Yeah.
world.
Yeah. Well, the goal is I would love to see, a movie or series made out of this because I've got a lot of stories that I could do with Garris. So that would be something. But we are working on this next one. So so hopefully it won't be too much longer, and you'll be
Yes.
hearing you'll be hearing from Garris again.
Hopefully in Richard Poe's voice, but even if I don't, I will definitely read and listen to the book.
Yeah, no, yeah. I've had so many fortunate people to, for my debut book, from the book cover.
Hmm. Best Thriller Books did a great review on it too.
Those, yeah, terrific. Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, those guys, yes. I don't know if it's been known, but I had a book reading in Portland,
Oh,
and
cool.
and Steve Netter, who reviewed the book from book best, say it again,
Best
best.
Thriller Books.
I asked him to, knowing that he lives in Portland, would you come and say a few words? And I surprised the audience by saying, well, I started reading his review, and I just said, why am I doing this? Steve, will you come up? And so that made the night. So thank you, Steve. I appreciate it. And Steve Thomas as well. Colonel
Hmm.
Steve did a great review. So yeah, I those guys are terrific.
Hmm. Awesome. Gene, I will link all of that in the show notes. Thanks again for coming on the show.
Thank you. Thank you. And I can't wait to read the next Mitch as well.
Thank you.